Good evening, survivors. We are so excited to have Bri and David Edwards here tonight, sharing with us about their loss of their son, Lach, and how they have moved forward and created such a beautiful legacy for him. So we'll start out just introducing them. The first time we heard about Bri and David was a few months ago. If you remember, Christy and Dustin Schumacher came on and shared their story about Cameron losing her, but they mentioned how David was one of her caregivers. He's a CRNA, and they just couldn't say enough good about you guys. And so, of course, we wanted to meet them, and we're able to set up a time to meet. And just, I think we talked for a good hour and a half to 2 hours, but it was just so neat to connect with you guys and see what you are doing in honor of your son, Lach. Bri is a nurse, so they both work in the healthcare industry, and Rapid City is for sure so blessed to have them in what they do professionally and what they do to serve those around them. So we're so grateful to have you guys here tonight. And just want to invite you to tell your story, going back to when Lach was born. Tell us about him and just your journey going forward from there.
Yeah, that's a perfect place to start. His birthday is tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
He was actually due on Father's Day, and then born on the 21st, which wasn't Father's Day the year he was born, but it was close. Yeah. So this time of year is always meaningful for us to celebrate him. You want to talk about him first?
Oh, go ahead.
So Lach was our second. We had a little guy that was about 2 when Lach was born. Happy, healthy little baby. He was growing and meeting all of his milestones and doing everything that a baby should do. And we were just in a place in our lives where everything that we dreamed of since we were high school sweethearts. So all the things that we dreamed of since we were 17 were finally manifesting. And we had this beautiful little family, and we bought our first home, and David was finishing anesthesia school, and I was just starting my first grown-up job. And so we were really just in a place that, kind of all of our dreams were coming true. And it was the day after Mother's Day, and the kids were just starting their second day, or their first day of their second week at a new daycare. It was a completely ordinary day, and I got a call that afternoon from the daycare providers. They told me they needed me to come down, that Lach wasn't breathing, and that the EMTs were there. And so that's kind of where the whirlwind of chaos and grief began. It turns out that he had been napping on a crib mattress on the floor of this daycare facility, lights on, providers in the room. He'd been sleeping, he was 10 and a half months old. He was just like 5 weeks shy from his first birthday. So at that point, he was big enough to roll himself over onto his tummy, and he was sleeping that way with his face turned toward the wall. So the daycare providers couldn't appreciate any color changes in his face, but and had recognized that he'd been taking a long nap. By the time somebody actually physically touched him and realized that there was something wrong, he'd probably been gone for several hours. So, it's a big, hard, kind of traumatic experience, not only for us, but for the people that were there with him for the daycare. Being that we were hospital employees, we were familiar with a lot of the emergency medical team. And so for them to know whose baby that was just makes it particularly hard for everybody involved. You have anything in particular you want to add or that I missed?
No, that's kind of a good place to start, I guess. There's always a million things going on in those situations to sum it all up. But yeah, it was an interesting combination of events, I guess, after Lach died. The people that kind of come out of the woodwork to show their support for you, even when there's nothing you can do or say in those kinds of scenarios. Sometimes it was, family or friends, that were there to support you. Sometimes it was people you didn't even know.
Mhm. For sure.
Which that's really kind of where the very beginnings, I suppose, of what Lach's legacy is. I feel like in our lives we had not lived through a lot of deep pain and suffering yet, and so we're really pretty naive as to how to support someone who's going through something hard. And so the people that kind of circled around us and helped support us through that were teachers to us, as well as supporting us, letters and phone calls and little gifts. One of my most notable, and I suppose it's because I didn't know her well at the time, but the wife of the surgeon that I was working with was the first one to show up at the door. And she had a way about her of just stepping into that space in a gentle way and doing the things that I couldn't do in those moments, answering the door, answering the phone calls, and helping make coffee for people that were showing up. And it was just a tremendous service in those moments, because I was not in a place where I could tend to the people around me. And it was an eye-opening beginning to understanding how I didn't have to know somebody well for them to have a meaningful impact in my grief experience and in the support that they were giving me, which was a new idea to me, especially in those big hard things. I guess I always assumed that it was the people that were closest to the sufferers that would be the ones that would provide the most support. And in hindsight, knowing that the people that were closest to us were also suffering immensely themselves, which makes their capacity to be able to reach into us, it's different. It's hard in a whole different way for them. And I think everybody that's experienced such a big loss wrestles with which people are stepping into that space and which ones aren't. And just acknowledging that sometimes the people that are closest to us that we think should be able to support us are grieving so intensely in their own ways that they can't necessarily be what we need in those times.
Yes, for sure. I totally relate with how I just had, but when we lost Lily, just the amount of people and what they did for us was so overwhelming. And that, I think, had something to do with, paying it forward. Did that kind of help you come to the, like you're so overwhelmed and so grateful and just
overwhelmed in a good
way because of all.
Join her for just a moment.
Oh, you're fine.
Excuse me.
It's Father's Day.
It's Father's Day. They all want.
Yes. Daddy.
But did that? Yeah. So did that, like, I guess when was that point when you decided, okay, I want to create Lach's legacy, or was it Lach's legacy, or was it just like, I want to help other people?
So it started as those examples of the people around me that were stepping in to help support us, and the people that I never would have expected. And then other bereaved parents had a very unique way of being able to talk to us. I always found a lot of comfort in talking to somebody else who had been through something similar. They just always seem to have a different way of being able to ask questions and to engage in a conversation and to be able to hear my story. And I could start to say something about my experience and they would give me that knowing nod. And just that community of support, and the connection that you can establish with somebody who's walked a similar journey was pretty profound to me as well. And at the same time, I was hungry for resources, anything I could get my hands on, whether it's books or what kind of support groups are available, or and I worked really hard to find what was available. And I just kept thinking it shouldn't have to be this hard for somebody who's hurting, from in such a deep place, to have to work that hard to find what's available to them. And so a lot of those pieces kind of one on top of another, that, as newly bereaved parents, or as a bereaved parent, that put us in a unique position to be able to minister and talk to other bereaved parents. It became important to me to make resources easier to find. And then David was still in school, so he had about 2 weeks off before he had to go back into his full-time plus school activity. But I stayed. I did not go back to work, and my thoughts were, it's 100% about Lachlan. I had all this time and energy and emotion, and I needed some place to put that. I think that's one of the things, as a grieving parent, one of the things to figure out is how to love somebody that is no longer physically here. And so finding a way to serve other people and to touch those places where people were hurting, and that now I knew I had a unique insight into, just gave me some meaning and some purpose, and it gave a way for Lachlan's life to continue to mean something, and for his life to make an impact beyond just our little family. As an infant, we even lived 400 miles from where our extended families were. And so even our parents only got to meet him a handful of times. And so just being able to reach out and to be able to do something and to serve in honor of him helped us find meaning and purpose and hope, and just let his name continue to mean something to other people too.
So one of the things that we've found, and you're voicing this, is service truly is a universal healing balm. As you've expressed, both when it happened, people coming into your life, and that service helped you and helped relieve your immediate family members, because they were suffering and not able to do some of the things, distance and logistics. And that service is so powerful. I love the way that you've said that. And then that return and that feeling of finding service in behalf of Lachlan and being able to then start to solve some of those things. I think that's just, it validates what we're kind of deeply believe, and that service is that universal healing balm, and that it really is a thread that strengthens the communities that we live in, is when we have opportunities to serve. And I think you mentioned the word hungry for resources.
Yeah.
I think people are also in these situations hungry for opportunities to serve, because like David mentioned, they don't necessarily know what to say or what to do, but when they have some kind of action, whether it's making coffee for people showing up, or putting together a meal calendar, or doing whatever it might be, that gives them a voice, even if they don't say anything to
That was one of the things I felt like we learned in particular. We are kind of type A busybodies. We like to be the helpers and not the ones who need help. We always wanted to be pretty self-sufficient, and turn down any offers for help. We wanted to do it ourselves. And in that place, when it's everything you can do just to breathe, to have to put yourself in a place to accept that service from other people. And then, you know, having our eyes opened to just that you were saying, Josh, people are, when they're hurting, they're hungry to be able to do something, to be able to serve in some way, and to be able to accept that it offers some healing to the people around us who are also hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Our hospital community was so generous. You know, that's, we were talking about how, you know, so many people donated vacation hours to help me be able to have the time that I needed to be able to grieve. They put together bake sales to be able to donate to us. My smaller group stepped in ways just, you know, to come help clean our house, or to put some fresh fruit in our refrigerator, to help, you know, fund that. We did a little memorial garden, so people were able to step in and kind of help donate some money and plants and stones and things that made that meaningful for us. And yeah, so it was beautiful both ways, in that it meant a lot to us to have the community around us, but it also gave something to the people who were hungry for a place to serve us.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about Lach's legacy and what you do. We know it educates about SIDS, and you do the care packages. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you should take a turn.
You're doing great.
All right, step up to the plate, Dad. It's Father's Day.
Right, here I am. No, I guess that we kind of have a three-prong mission, I guess, as to what we provide through Lach's legacy. One of them is to help support SIDS related research. So to help kind of find out some of the avenues that SIDS can affect people and how to avoid it, and those types of research projects as to what it really is, because SIDS is a diagnosis of exclusion, meaning that we don't really know what it is. There could be, you know, 100 different things that are part of that, and to help kind of pick through that and what's causing these deaths, to try to prevent them, you know, in the end. Another portion is we try to provide education, you know, to some primary care providers about safe sleep, and just recognition as to what it is, so that it can start some conversations. And you know, there's not necessarily, you know, it's not that you're doing something wrong if you're not following all of the, you know, best guidelines out there, but we kind of look at it as you say, a good, better, best scenario. You know, there's a best case scenario, you know, your baby's sleeping on their back in their crib without, you know, bumpers and all those cute things. So there's a list of things that are the best case scenario, but, you know, just so that you can kind of see what the options are, I guess, and what's the best options.
And then, yeah, just the bereavement support. So we have a care package that is designed most specifically for parents who are experiencing the unexpected loss of an infant. And it's got a pile of resources, because that's the stuff that I wish I had in hand.
Awesome.
A list of stuff that's available kind of around South Dakota, and then a handful of comfort items, just things that were comforting to me early in my grief.
Mm-hmm.
And so then our primary fundraisers are Run for Their Lives events, which is a 5K run walk. We do one in Spearfish on Mother's Day, and then one in Harrisburg the second weekend of June. And those end up just being a really neat way for families to come together, to have a way to say their child's name out loud, to remember them with their loved ones. We've got a number of families that'll help do things like find silent auction items, and, you know, it too gives them, you know, a little place to serve in honor of their kids, and even just to come and participate. Their families are serving the parents, just by taking the time to show up and remember their child in a visible way.
That's awesome. We were part of the run this past month. It was raining a lot, but it was really cool to see just all the pictures of the little ones that were lost. Lily was one of them. It was really cool to see her and just along the runway, that's the path or whatever that you guys had. And you guys had a slideshow of all of the people, the kids that had passed. And it was really cool just to see a bunch of people gather together and remember, and just such a great feeling, you know, because we can all share, we can all relate in ways that other people can't, but it was just really, really special.
I think it's a liberal exaggeration that we were there participating in. But post facto, 100%. We walked up the path, or drove up the path, and walked up there.
A little bit.
And I have certainly loved the shirts. I've worn it a number of times running, and I love to put it on and read those names on the back there. And
well, and our son, even he wore it to school, and he wanted to tell his whole class about what it was about. So he was pretty proud of, you know, having his sister's name on the shirt. And one of the special things I loved is a little keychain that had so the L for Lily and a feather and a little angel with her birthstone. So just such a sweet gesture. And so I thank you for that. And yeah, just amazing.
Those are little things that, as a bereaved mom myself, then like those are unique little insights that you start to understand, even though it seems like a small thing. You know, I mean, it's a little keychain, it's a small thing, but how meaningful those little things can be just to remember together.
Yeah, that's sure.
This run and being able to put all of those kids together in one space, you know, that's when Lach died. I didn't think I knew any other bereaved parents. Like this wasn't a thing I knew about. I didn't know where to even begin. And so I was amazed after he died, the people that started coming out of the woodwork, and other people who had experienced that big loss, and how much it meant to me to have a community and to see other people who had survived it, and they were still able to function as normal human beings. And, you know, they really are, you know, have been an inspiration to us, to be able to watch other people and how they've been able to find that softer space for their grief, where they can carry kind of both the joy and the sorrow all at once. And go on living meaningful lives.
Yeah, I love that. So I do have a question. Your logo has a dragonfly with an anchor. Is that correct? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the dragonfly became a thing for us pretty immediately after Lach died. When we saw him at the hospital later that evening, the child life team there had a little box put together for us. And one of the things in that was a little book called Water Bugs and Dragonflies. And it's a little story about the water bugs at the bottom of the pond. And every once in a while, one of them would climb up the stalk and disappear and never come back. So they held a little town meeting and decided that the next one that went up the stalk would come back down to tell him where he went. And so the mayor of the town ended up finding, you know, the next day he was climbing up the stalk and found himself on the surface of a leaf in a new dragonfly form. And so, you know, as he was kind of whizzing around and enjoying his new glorious form in a whole new amazing world to explore, he remembered his promise and realized that even if he could get below the surface, they wouldn't recognize him in his new form, and really they would just have to wait until it was their turn to be able to see what was happening, right? And so that was something that we held on to pretty tight right from the beginning, that he's still alive and just in a new and glorious form just above the surface, that he really wasn't very far away. And so the dragonfly has been our thing for Lach. It's our symbol of him. We see them in all the right times and the right places. They seem to show up. And then the anchor is a very faith-based piece of that, to be both anchored in community and in the support and in Christ, and then to have those wings and hope. And so I feel like that dragonfly and that anchor kind of package all of that message into one little symbol of the kind of roots and wings, and being anchored in hope.
I love that so much. What's the name of that book? And we'll post that. I think I never heard of the book. So what's it called?
It's Water Bugs and Dragonflies.
Okay. And then maybe you could just text me later, and when we post it, we can type it in.
So I want to just read a verse. It's one of my favorite verses with you. And it says, "Wherefore whoso believeth in God might with surety hope for a better world, yea, even a place at the right hand of God, which hope cometh of faith, maketh an anchor to the souls of men, which would make them sure and steadfast, always abounding in good works, being led to glorify God." So I think that what you've just described, that anchor is perfect for that. And that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
That's really
with us.
One of my other,
go ahead.
if we've got a minute, that's one of my other big projects has been, reading was something that was very comforting to me early on too. It was something I could do at my own time and my own pace. And I was reading every story I could get my hand on from other bereaved parents and things about heaven. And so I finally have made it to write down my own story. And so that book is written and we're in an editing process, and I'm really just hoping it can be just another resource for parents to grab a hold of and to find some community and some communion in the story of someone else.
So tell us the title of the book. I believe it's something about 1,000 pounds.
1,000 pounds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That comes from an analogy that I have used from the very beginning, really, and that it feels like at the beginning, like somebody dropped 1,000 pounds on your chest. You can't think, you can't breathe, you can't move. It's crushing in every way. But this is a weight that doesn't ever go away. It's not something that you'll be able to get rid of. And so then you have a choice as to whether you lay there and be crushed and be bitter, or whether a little bit at a time, because any strength training program doesn't happen all at once, but a very little bit at a time, you can grow the strength to be able to carry that weight and be comfortable while you carry it.
I love that
awesome.
so much, and I can't wait to read it. So we'll have to, when it comes out, you'll have to contact us, and we'll post it for sure on Survivors.
Yeah, I'd love that. But yeah, it's just another way. It's something that is both healing to be able to write and to tell your own story. There's a lot of just integration and healing that happens in being able to share our stories.
Yeah.
And then knowing for me in the beginning how important it was to hear other people's stories. Just one more way to find meaning through service, right?
Yeah, for sure. And David, do you have anything else you want to add?
Oh geez. Well, I guess there's so many things you could talk about, in these situations and stuff. I don't know, are we kind of getting short on time, or are we?
No, you're fine.
You're fine.
Yeah. No, I guess one thing that I was thinking, just describing, the ways that people can help, the service portion of this. And one of the reasons why we do the run for their lives is to give an opportunity for, the secondary grievers, so to speak, the people that didn't, it wasn't their child that passed, but it was, their parents or their siblings or their best friends, those people that suffered, a big loss. And it gives them somewhere to go and somewhere to talk about it, where it's, it's okay. Everybody else is thinking the same thing they are. It's, they're in a place where, everybody around them is, aware or familiar with the loss, and they don't even have to do anything in particular. They can just show up and be there as a support person. They don't have to do anything grand. They don't have to build a monument. They don't have to, write a book. What they do is they can just be there in support of those people who are grieving, and those people who they're supporting can feel it. They have their people with them, and that's enough. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It's just an opportunity for people to support.
Yeah, I love that you talked about that. It's easy to feel like our service projects need to be as grand as our grief, and that's impossible to do. And really, in the little things that we do, and the ways that we encounter people in a different way, and the ways that we can hold space to hear a hard story, or to reach out to somebody that's having a hard experience, that's those are meaningful and healing relationship builders. And really, that's those little everyday things are bigger and more important than the big projects, than the nonprofit foundations or the book writing. Just being able to have more meaningful relationships, because there's a space for the hard stuff.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel like there's so many little things that were done for us, myself, that like they'll forever be etched in my heart. Like people thought they were like really like doing nothing because it didn't seem big enough, or but for me it was like huge. Like even a text, just what they said, I still remember the feeling I had, and like just the love that I felt. It's it's the little things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
So we just want to so since it's Lach's birthday tomorrow, as survivors, we like to celebrate those lost loved ones with you. Is there anything that he loved to eat? Like in the past we've done, so say a boy, he loved blueberries, so we all ate blueberries on that day, or something like that. Anything.
10.5 months, he loved milk.
Well, he was eating solids, right?
He was.
or anything he liked, like bubbles or whatever. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be eating.
Or any favorite family memories.
Yeah. That's something we could do to celebrate him.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just thinking, that the day before he passed away, we had kind of a nice moment where we were out on the sidewalk playing with a pinwheel. It was just the first time he'd really experienced a pinwheel, and he really kind of liked that. And that was kind of a fond memory, of just sitting outside on the sidewalk on a nice warm day.
Yeah.
Playing with a almost 11-month-old child with a pinwheel, where they have that awe and wonder in their eye at this, this sparkly thing. He had some food allergies, so a lot of the food we were making for him was not really all that tasty. So peaches. He liked peaches, and he liked to share.
Ooh, we just got a big box of peaches, so
So pinwheels and peaches. We'll make a little post, and we'll join you in celebrating.
I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you two need to be thanked. One, for coming on and sharing your story. We deeply believe that something that you've shared tonight will touch somebody. I know there's been something for that Stacy and I have both learned some stuff tonight. And I know that somebody in the future or tonight's audience will appreciate and learn something from what you've shared. And the other thing we hope and believe that you have felt yet one more little level of healing in sharing your story. And so we're glad, and hopefully that gift has been received. And as you've shared, you've been able to feel some of that. Thank you so much for what you guys do. Like Stacy said, here in the community, and the community that you are able to have an influence on. I know that it's significant. And I certainly know that Lach is alive, and that in that different sphere, he's aware of the good that you're doing, and will always be there to aid in those services, for sure.
Thank you guys so much.
We're grateful to you guys. And can we finish with an invitation?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Listeners? Yes. The invitation is to reach out to somebody who is going through something hard, even if it's somebody that you don't know well, but you know of their story. to break the silence about it and to just gently serve them in some little way, whether it's by a simple text message that and you're thinking about them and you're praying for them, to offer a small service and see if that's something that would be helpful for them. But sometimes it's hard to step into those spaces, and so the invitation is to step in to somebody who's going through something tough.
Awesome. We love it.
Thank you.
And if anybody feels inclined to receive that invitation and share, please send a message to us on Survivors, and we'd be glad to repost that. We can share it anonymously if you would like, but we would love to see or hear of any of those opportunities. So thank you. That was very good.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to you as well.